After paying their mortgage for 5 years, I was told by my son's wife that I was too low class to attend their Christmas dinner. I calmly packed my bag, swallowing the bitterness of betrayal, but the next morning, when I canceled the $2,800 monthly payment that was keeping their perfect, entitled life afloat, I set a clock ticking that would destroy their world before the new year. The setup, the ATM. Father, before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and write in the comments what time it is where you are now. I poured myself a glass of water, the ice clinking loudly in the unnaturally quiet kitchen. My hands, thick and scarred from 40 years as a mechanical contractor, a life spent drawing up blueprints, laying pipe, and running massive, complex projects, were now shaking. I was 67, a retiree who had spent his life building things, bridges, buildings, and a family. My name is Dennis Flores. My son, Michael, was the most important structure I'd ever tried to build. My wife, Maria, had passed away 10 years prior. After that, my purpose solidified, securing Michael's future. When he married Isabella, a woman with a pedigree and a family who looked down on my brown skin and calloused hands, I didn't care. I opened my wallet instead. Isabella's parents, the Swansons, were upper crust, white collar, and relentlessly demanding of a lifestyle Michael couldn't afford on his junior executive salary. So I stepped in. I sold the large 4-bedroom house Maria and I had built together and downsized to a modest 2-bedroom condo. The difference, a cool $50,000, went directly into Michael and Isabella's down payment. They picked a beautiful house in the respectable Spokane suburbs, a house I would never have been able to afford when I was their age. That was only the beginning. The mortgage is too much, Dad, Michael had confessed, shamefaced. Isabella's parents keep talking about the neighborhood standard, but we're drowning. I had offered a temporary solution that became permanent. For the last 5 years, 60 consecutive months, I had transferred $2,800 on the first of every month directly to their mortgage provider. I covered their extravagant kitchen renovation, another $20,000, and countless other emergencies, car repairs, private school tuition for the grandkids, and investment opportunities for Isabella's husband. My ledger, kept meticulously like a project manager's log, tallied the total, $237,000 and counting. It was my retirement being drained, but I told myself it was for family, it was love. The inciting incident, too unrefined for Christmas, the betrayal, didn't arrive with a bang. It came with the chilling ring of a Sunday afternoon phone call 2 weeks before Christmas. Dad, hey, Michael's voice was strained. He sounded like a hostage reading a ransom note. Listen, Isabella and I need to talk to you about the Christmas Eve dinner. I smiled. Perfect. I was going to call Aunt Rosa. She can bring her famous tamales for the party. She always makes extra. The line went silent. Then Michael stammered, Dad, that's kind of the thing. Isabella's parents, they're actually hosting this year. It's a very formal affair. They have some important people coming, clients, a judge from the district court, that kind of thing. I waited for the explanation to transition into an apology, but instead I heard Isabella's sharp voice take over. Hello, Dennis. We appreciate everything you've done, truly, but this year we just can't risk it. Michael put the phone on speaker. I heard the muffled click. Risk what, Isabella? I asked, keeping my voice even. Look, we're trying to elevate our social standing here, she said, her voice dripping with condescending patience. Your friends, your people, they're wonderful, I'm sure, but they're simply unrefined. A contractor showing up, bringing a whole tray of homemade food. It simply ruins the atmosphere for the kind of people we need to impress. This dinner is an investment for Michael's career. The words hung in the air. Unrefined, a contractor, ruins the atmosphere. The house you live in, the house where you're hosting this investment dinner, was paid for by the hands of this contractor, I stated, the shaking in my hands now a cold tremor of rage. She scoffed, a dry, dismissive sound. Oh, that old check. That was just a tax write-off, wasn't it, Dennis? A desperate attempt to look generous. You had an obligation to help your son. Don't try to use your measly contributions to buy a seat at our table. We're doing this for ourselves now. You can come over on the 26th for leftovers." Michael remained silent. His silence was the final, fatal blow. I didn't argue. I didn't yell. I simply said, "Understood. Enjoy your dinner, Isabella. And Michael, I hope your career is worth it." I hung up and sat in the quiet of my condo, the red-hot core of my being starting to cool, hardening into a block of pure, crystalline resolve. The shift, the engineer's resolve. I stared at the framed photo of Maria on the mantelpiece. She was smiling, her eyes crinkling at the edges. She'd always told me my biggest flaw was my loyalty, that I gave too much and expected nothing in return. "You gave them your whole life, Dennis." I could almost hear her whisper. "And they called you low class. They called your love an obligation." The hurt was still there, but it was being rapidly replaced by the metallic taste of cold, hard logic. I was no longer a father to them. I was an ATM, and every good engineer knows that an ATM is worthless once its money supply runs out. I stood up. The old, soft, self-sacrificing father was gone. In his place was Dennis Flores Parisi, the meticulous, precise, documentation-obsessed project manager who had never once been late or over budget on a multi-million-dollar job. My mission was no longer about saving my relationship. It was about justice and restoration. I needed to reclaim my dignity and my future. I needed to build my arsenal. The preparation, building the arsenal. I spent the next 48 hours in a fog of hyper-focused work, fueled by lukewarm coffee and cold anger. 1. Documenting everything. The project log. I opened my laptop and created a new spreadsheet, naming it, with engineering precision, Michael J. and Isabella S. Lifetime Assets Account Audit. I logged every financial transaction since Michael's graduation. Line 1, May 15, 2017, initial down payment check, $50,000.0. Memo, 4 sons future. Lines 2-61, June 1, 2017, November 1, 2022, monthly mortgage transfer auto draft $2,800.0 x 60 months equals $168,000.0. Memo, primary residence mortgage, line 62, April 1, 2019, kitchen renovation contractor invoice $20,000.0. Memo, kitchen upgrade Isabella's demand. The grand total stared back at me, $238,700.0. Every single transfer had a corresponding bank statement and, crucially, my name as the account holder initiating the automatic draft. I printed the entire ledger and all supporting documents, placing them into a thick, black leather binder. The weight of the binder felt like truth itself. 2. Strategic maneuvering, the cancellation. The first and most critical strike needed to be surgical. I walked into the local branch of my bank. I didn't just call. A contractor always uses certified documents. I drafted a certified letter of intent stating that the automatic electronic fund transfer F to Spokane Mortgage, account hashtag 445-XXXX, would be immediately and permanently revoked. You understand this means they'll be late on their December payment? The branch manager asked, a concerned look on his face. I do, I said. They are late on the dignity they owe me. Financial consequences are a lesson they have earned. The payment, which was due on the 1st of the month, was now not going through. The grace period was 10 days. After that, late fees, and soon after, the clock to foreclosure would start ticking. 3. Seeking professional help. The lawyer I called James Chen, an old college roommate from the University of Washington, now one of the most respected real estate lawyers in Seattle. "Jimmy, they called me low class and kicked me out of the house I bought them," I said, skipping the pleasantries. James was silent for a moment. "Dennis, that's unforgivable. What do you want?" "I want justice, Jimmy. I want them to face the consequences of their greed. I've stopped the payment. I have a binder full of proof. What's my play? James confirmed that my years of continuous payment and my status as a co-signer on a private loan I'd refinanced for them gave me irrefutable leverage. You're not kicking them out, Dennis. You're simply withdrawing your investment. You hold the proof that their perfect life is an illusion built entirely on your sacrifice. Let them expose themselves, the escalation, the public smear. Unaware that their entire financial foundation had been silently removed, Michael and Isabella, or more likely Isabella's parents, launched their final desperate attack. On December 20th, I was enjoying a quiet coffee when my old friend, Aunt Rosa, called me, her voice trembling. "Dennis, have you seen the Spokane Quarterly?" I bought a copy. On page 3, under a small local news section, was a poorly disguised hit piece. The article, which cited an anonymous source close to the family, painted me as a financially unstable, erratic relative who was attempting to extort his poor, struggling children by demanding money and access to their home. It claimed I had suddenly and vindictively cut off a small, sporadic payment I had offered as charity. The article subtly highlighted the family's long-standing reputation in the community, contrasting it with my less desirable background. I read the word extort. They had turned my profound love and sacrifice into a weapon against me. They had tried to destroy my reputation, the one thing a contractor lives on. A slow, deliberate smile spread across my face. They had just handed me the final, irrefutable piece of evidence I needed for the climax. They had escalated the fight from a private family dispute to a public lie. The climax, the trap is sprung. The day was Christmas Eve. The Spokane suburbs were dusted in fresh snow, looking like the perfect holiday postcard. My heart hammered, but my movements were steady, practiced, and calm. I wore my best suit, a dark navy that Maria had bought me years ago. I carried my black leather binder. I drove my 15-year-old F-150 right up the stone driveway of the house I paid for. I walked to the front door, the sound of polite, festive chatter and soft music coming from inside. I didn't ring the bell. I used the hidden key I had never surrendered. I walked straight past a horrified Michael and a stunned Isabella in the foyer. The dining room was filled with about 20 guests, Isabella's parents, the Swansons, and all the important people Michael was supposed to impress. The room was opulent with crystal, silver, and enough flowers to stock a funeral home. Silence fell as I entered. Every eye was on the uninvited guest. Isabella's father, Mr. Swanson, was the first to speak, his voice booming with false authority. "Dennis, what in God's name are you doing? Get out of my daughter's house, or I'm calling the police." I ignored him. I walked slowly to the head of the table, pulling the newspaper clipping from my inner pocket. "Good evening, everyone," I said, my voice steady, carrying over the stunned silence. "My name is Dennis Flores, and I'm here to refute a piece of slander that appeared in the Quarterly this week." I held up the article. "It claims I'm an erratic relative trying to extort my son. It implies the family hosting this wonderful dinner is financially supporting a destitute old man." I opened my black binder and pulled out the first page, the 5-year ledger. "I'm a retired mechanical contractor, and I document everything. Mr. Swanson, this house you're standing in, the one you claim is your daughter's, is worth exactly as much as my financial investment in it. I have paid in continuous monthly transfers $2,800 a month for the last 60 months. That is $168,000. In mortgage principal alone, not including the $50,000 down payment." I looked at Michael, his face pale and sick. I looked at Isabella, her mouth open in a silent scream of panic. "This check," I continued, holding up the bank-certified copy of the $50,000 down payment, "was the first brick in this perfect wall. The mortgage payments were the mortar. My total financial investment in the assets of my son and daughter-in-law is $238,700. I took a deep breath. 3 weeks ago, I was called low class and told my presence would ruin the atmosphere of this fine dinner. my love, my life savings, was called an obligation and a tax write-off. I reached into the binder's flap and pulled out the final document, a sheaf of legal papers. On December 1st, I exercised my right as the co-signer and continuous financier to cancel the automatic $2,800 mortgage payment. I looked directly at Mr. Swanson. That payment is now 24 days late. Foreclosure proceedings can be initiated within 90 days, and as of this moment, Mr. Swanson, I am serving my son and his wife with this legal notice of intent to foreclose and quitclaim demand from my attorney, James Chen Parisi, GDI. Slid the papers across the white linen tablecloth. They stopped right next to the turkey platter. I didn't try to extort them, I said, my voice calm and devastating. I simply withdrew my investment after they publicly humiliated me. They thought my kindness was weakness. They thought my self-sacrifice was stupidity. They were wrong. They now own a late mortgage payment and a lawsuit, which I fully intend to see through to the end. The house you're all celebrating in? It's not theirs. It's built on a lie, and the foundation has just been removed. The fallout, the collapse. The silence was broken by Isabella's hysterical scream. No. Michael, tell him no. We can't lose the house. Dad, do something. Mr. Swanson's face was the color of old parchment. He sputtered, "You'll be ruined. I'll call my lawyers. I'll file a slander suit. You can't afford this fight, you tramp." I picked up the copy of the quarterly and looked him in the eye. I don't need to afford it, Mr. Swanson. I am the sole source of liquid capital in this room, and my lawyer is one of the best in Seattle. You publicly lied to your clients and friends to cover for your daughter's greed. You called me a leech when I was your family's largest creditor. I am not asking for a fight. I am delivering the consequences of your actions. One by one, the important guests, the judge, the clients began to rise, mumbling apologies about sudden illnesses and prior engagements. They didn't want to be associated with a public scandal involving a smear campaign, greed, and an imminent foreclosure. The Swansons' carefully constructed social world was crumbling around them. Michael finally found his voice. He grabbed my arm, tears streaming down his face. "Dad, please. I'm so sorry. I'll talk to Isabella. I'll make her apologize. Just put the payment back, please." I looked at the son I had sacrificed everything for. You allowed her to call me unrefined. You stood silent when she called my love an obligation. Your apology now is worthless, Michael, because it's motivated by a mortgage, not by love. This is the consequence of your choices, not mine. I walked out, leaving the black binder on the table, its weight a promise of ruin. The sounds of Isabella's sobs and Michael's desperate pleading faded behind me. The resolution, justice, and peace. The legal battle was brief and devastating. The evidence in the binder was irrefutable. Michael and Isabella couldn't secure new financing, and the house was sold 6 months later in a short sale. Mr. Swanson's public reputation was ruined, but the story wasn't over. A month after the initial confrontation, Michael called. He wasn't demanding or apologizing out of fear. He was simply broken. He was living in a small apartment, working 2 jobs, and had filed for divorce. "I know you can't forgive me, Dad," he whispered over the phone, "but she was right about one thing. I am weak, and I let her use your love as a shield for my entitlement. I lost everything, but maybe I deserved it. I listened, my own heart aching. I forgive you, Michael, but forgiveness doesn't mean resuming old behavior. My bank is closed forever. We can rebuild a relationship on respect, not on money. You have to earn your life back, just like I had to reclaim mine." He agreed. It was a painful, honest beginning. As for me, I took the remaining capital from the sale of my condo and the money I hadn't spent on their mortgage, and I moved to a quiet, vibrant neighborhood 2 hours south near my cousin Aunt Rosa. Her family embraced me without judgment. I used a portion of the funds to establish the Maria Flores Tradesman Scholarship, a small endowment for young people from working-class backgrounds who wanted to attend trade school. I became a mentor, an engineer who built futures again, but this time on the foundation of self-respect. My apartment is smaller, but it is filled with laughter, not demands. I still have scars on my hands, but they are no longer the marks of a fool who was easily exploited. They are the marks of a builder who finally understood his own worth. I am no longer an ATM. I am free.